All right, Mark, can you tell us about the two legends that influenced your golfing career when you just started?
Yeah, so pretty lucky. When I was a little guy, I was telling this story on one of these the other day. My father, who had got the golf bug, a couple funny stories. The the way I got started in golf was there was a set of clubs in the corner. I had no idea. I knew they were golf clubs. I was a little kid, and the balls, they weren't like the rubber balls or the baseballs or the hockey pucks. They were odd. And anyway, I took one to the park, and I've got a couple of balls. I'm not even sure what iron I grabbed, and it's a schoolyard, and I'm hitting these, and I duffing them, and then I hit one, and it went over the fence, and it broke a neighbor's window. Okay, and this is a neighbor I'd never met, but it's a guy that I had to walk by all the time, to where I walked down my street, like maybe 15 houses, and then I kind of cut through the schoolyard a bit, and I could get to the school. This guy lived right on the edge on the corner there, so he was always farting around in his yard or mowing his yard. He's one of those guys. I don't mow the grass. I tried that. I'm terrible at it. I got a guy who does it. He's way better than me at it. Anyway, so this guy's out tending his yard. I hit a ball. It goes. I'm like panicked. Hits a window. Breaks the window. And I don't know if I'm gonna run or what I'm gonna do. Like I'm like frozen, right? And he's like, hey son, he's nice. Come on over. So he's like, well, what are we gonna do about this? I guess we gotta go talk to your parents. Like, and now I'm like freaking out. So we walk down the street, and he's being nice. We're talking about stuff, but I'm in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh my God, my dad's gonna kill me. And I don't know why I'm thinking that. My dad was pretty cool. But so every time I got to my house, I wouldn't go at the front door, up a stoop kind of thing to the front door where, people make the front door look nice. I didn't even hardly know what my front door looked like, because I would tear down the side of my house, go in the garage door, the laundry room door, and kind of, that's how I got in my house. Anyway, presses the doorbell, the door opens, it's my father. And he's like, hey guys, what's going on? Everything okay? Like he's this strange guy that he doesn't know, right? Oh, I think I'm losing my earbuds here.
So anyway, we get to my front door, and my dad goes, hey guys, what's going on? And the guy looks and says, well, your son hit a golf ball and it went over the fence and broke my window. And my dad's like, really? How far did he hit it? Like, he was excited about it. At that moment, like, yeah, I did. I hit it far, Dad. And anyway, repaired the window, and then I kind of learned that the golf ball would go pretty far. So he knew that like I had an interest in golf, and for a dad having a kid interested in golf, it's kind of fun. And then in the Toronto newspaper, the Toronto Star, back when there was no internet and you wanted somebody to know something, you always published it in the paper, right? Well, this was a thick paper, big sports page, big sports section. And of course, my beloved Toronto Maple Leafs, Kyle. Anyway, so
you don't have to say that.
Little itty bitty story that George Knudson was doing a junior golf seminar. And my father thought, well, I'll take my son to that. It's probably 10 minutes from the house, wasn't far away. I show up, there's maybe 6 kids there. Like, nobody was there for this icon of Canadian golf who had won 8 tour events, right? So there wasn't like you could send out a quick tweet, hey, Jordan Knudsen's going to be doing, you couldn't post it on Instagram. You couldn't just share it on Facebook really quick and get a ton of people out, right? You had to put something in the paper, and then it was an ad that nobody saw, so I was there. Now, I was a keen little kid, and I guess I was respectful enough, but mind you, most kids are when they are talking to a stranger. My son gives me a bit of a hard time because he's my son, but he's always like super polite when it's somebody else, right? But, so there's George Knudsen, stately guy, well-dressed, and he's talking about how to put the hands on the club and a few basic things, and I had a great time. I thought, man, that was great. So, flash forward the next summer, now maybe I'm 10 or 11. My father gets me for my birthday a lesson with George Knudsen, but it's a day-long lesson. So George used to do these things that were 3 people all day, meet at 9 o'clock, hit balls, play a couple holes, have lunch, hit more balls, talk golf, chip and putt, whatever. So he got me one of those, like total spoiled little kid. I couldn't wait, right? So I go spend the whole day with George. Now here's the thing. It's supposed to be 3 people. One guy called in last minute, couldn't go. Got pulled away from business or whatever. The other dude in that, so I'm a 10-year-old or 11-year-old, I can't remember. The other dude I'm 10 actually. The other dude in this thing is a guy named Gar Hamilton, who at the time was a tour player. So you got this little kid, Gar Hamilton and George Knudsen in this 3-day, in this full day event. and I had more fun, hitting balls. And the first thing he said to me was, I hit a couple shots because he didn't really see me hit when I first met him, because it was more of a, he didn't hit balls. He just showed you a few things. And I hit a few balls, and he said to me, did your father teach you to keep your head down? And I said, yeah. And he goes, okay, well, we're gonna fix that. And so he kind of taught me how to, rotate and extend and not try to just play golf down here like so many do. And at the end of the day, my father drove out in the golf cart, because we were at the back of the driving range. And he drives out and he says, hey, how's it going? How do you do? And George goes, he did great. He did amazing. In fact, he goes, if you ever want to bring him back, if I have an open spot, one of these, he can come back for free. And so like right then I was like blown away, because that was such a compliment to me as a kid, that, it was a totally memorable event for me that kind of cemented a couple of things. One, when I was respectful to an adult and tried hard, they appreciated it immensely. And I am the same way. When I have a kid who tries hard, and I don't just comp a kid right away. I mean, dad's got to pay for him to take a lesson. He's got to, come out and have interest and pay attention. But when I get a kid who's interested, man, that kid is invited back, usually not charged. I can't wait to help that kid again. So that was my first, experience with George Knudson. It was a huge one. And then Mo Norman is the other guy you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Mo Norman, for those of you that are watching this or listen to this that don't know who he is, a simple Google will, show you a ton of video and stories about a legendary ball striker from Canada named Murray Norman. He goes by Mo. And I've never seen Hogan hit a ball. I've watched a lot of video. I've watched the great match where he, in the Shell's Wonderful World of Golf, where he played Snead at Colonial. I think it was Colonial, where he hit every fairway and hit every green, and it looked amazing. But I can tell you what, Mo Norman would have done the same thing. And if he would have played 15 rounds on that golf course, he would have done the same thing. So, the guy was literally a ball striking machine. He was a kind guy. He was autistic. He would repeat himself. Like he would say to me, like he had some great wisdom. Like he'd say, hoo hoo. Like he always made this sound like, hoo hoo. And like whatever that means. You get used to it, right? And he goes, hoo hoo, right shoulder, gets closer to the ball, kind of like Rain Man a little bit, and you're like, what do you mean, Mo? He goes, hoo hoo, hit the ball with your right shoulder, hit the ball with your right shoulder. And so he'd repeat himself, and he'd say, oh, golf ball fits, meaning that if somebody said it's a tight hole, it wasn't a tight hole for Mo Norman, because the golf ball fit. It fit. If it fit this much, he wouldn't feel like it was a tight hole. I mean, I often joke with people, if you went out and stood on the range 250 yards away, okay, and you weren't allowed to step off of a handkerchief, and you gave Mo 4 or 5 balls, I'd be surprised if he didn't hit you on the second or third ball, if he didn't hit you on the first ball. I mean, it was the most, wow, the freakiest thing you ever saw to watch this guy hit golf balls. He wasn't epically powerful. He was powerful enough, and he was so pure, it was crazy. And he won, 29 times on the Canadian Tour, which is amazing because there's plenty of good players playing the Canadian Tour. But he just didn't quite have the social skills and, personal attitude and belief to kind of carry himself on the U.S. Tour. It would have been fun for people to know him kind of like Canadians knew him, but, he didn't quite have the people skills to kind of deal with kind of the dog-eat-dog, because let's face it, when you're playing a professional event, you might be a nice guy and you're the pleasantries, but you're trying to beat the tar out of the guy you're playing with in the golf course, and you really don't care how he plays. I mean, I don't. I mean, it's nice to meet you at the end of the round. Nice to meet you. Thanks for the game. I hope, nice playing, or hey, whatever, better luck next time. But nobody's really trying to invite somebody into taking their bit of the prize money, let's face it. And so he wasn't exactly warmed up to when he came to the U.S. Tour, or it would have been cool to see him play well, but that wasn't a skill he had. He had a great skill in striking golf balls, and on a range, it was unbelievable. On the golf course, it was unbelievable because I got to play with him a few times. But neat guys to grow up around, that's for sure, Neil. Thanks for asking me about them.
That's an interesting grew up around them. That's some great stories. I'm gonna rewatch that. That's really good.